You see the big smoker. We love using our smoker. We have spent thousands of dollars to use this smoker. But guess what? Today we're gonna smoke something without using a smokehouse. So let's think about that. How can we get that smoky flavor? Sometimes when we don't have a smoker, we're gonna do it right on a grill. And it's gonna be the best pulled pork you ever ate. All right, it is about to flood here in South Mississippi. We have actually had a hurricane coming in. But guess what? We want smoked Boston butt. We're actually doing a collaboration with a bunch of YouTubers kind of lined up by Homestead Dad. You will see a link to all those shows below. Go check them out. Tell them the Max had the best smoked meal though for this series. So when we make hamburgers, we always have that charcoal rolling because we don't want to waste. And so we're going to go ahead and put a Boston butt on there too. We're going to show you how we smoke it, the time that we smoke it, and give that good charness, show you the ingredients, the simple ingredients we put on our Boston butt, and ultimately finish it out in the stove or crock pot. We are using the most sophisticated grill known to man. If you don't have one of these, you better go out and buy one right now. We are using this cheap little grill that we bought for $40, and we actually have a backup already because we love these little grills. We used to pick them up at Home Depot or Walmart, but this is the best way to get that smoky flavor on your Boston butt sometimes when you don't have a smoker or want to light a big smokehouse. Usually if we're smoking on a grill, we want to make sure that the charcoal's burned out pretty good. So we never waste charcoal this way. So we'll cook, like tonight we're cooking burgers. So we'll cook burgers first. And as that charcoal starts rendering down and become more ash, that's when we want to put the pork on there. We're using one of our non-GMO raised hogs. So you could go buy any Boston butt or shoulder. Shoulders tend to be probably a little bit cheaper, but basically, remember the Boston butt is just part of the shoulder. So it's actually not the rear end of the pig like most people think. But we've got this going. We're gonna let it kind of simmer down. We're gonna cook the burgers, get the burgers cooked first, and then we're gonna throw this pulled pork on there. Now, when we do that, we're gonna let it go ahead and render and sear pretty heavy. We want it searing and get that good char on it. And see the smoke? Well, that smoke is going to give it that flavor. We always will put either cherry or apple or pecan wood chips, all that. You can just basically just throw them over your coals when you do that. We like to wet ours just a tad, and that helps them keep them damp. Usually they're going to soak in water overnight and then put them in here. Sometimes you can put them in a pan in here. We just kind of scatter ours just literally right around the outside, not directly on the fire, but right on the outside. Most give it a little bit better flavor than just charcoal or hardwood charcoal. So we've got it outside. We've been letting it sit in the marinade for just about an hour. We do that light season that we showed you. You see that we've already cooked our burgers. The grill is pretty much ashed over, such as the charcoal. We've got hardwood charcoal, we've got regular charcoal, and then also we're fixing to add some chips to it and get this thing going. Now we're gonna put it directly on the ashes. Now the fire is really hot still, but we want that char before we want the smoke. So we're getting a great smoke out of there already, which is gonna give it that flavor. But ultimately, we're gonna go ahead and give it to where it's gonna char on the one side, come on the other side char, and then we're not talking about burning it black. But we're talking about a good heavy char, and to us have a better flavor because ultimately it's gonna keep all the stuff that's in there, which is the fat that's rendering down, which is the smoky flavor, all inside that char, which is just gonna make for a better texture also. Okay, so we just flipped it after about 7 minutes or so. You char to it, but it's not overwhelming, it's not black. That's kind of what we're looking for. So we're gonna do the same thing to the other sides, do the sides, and then we're gonna kind of move everything and kind of move this over to the side over here where it's a little bit cooler. I mean, you can feel there. Over here is a hot spot. Once we do that, and that'll rest really for the next 4 hours. Hour and a half or so of grilling and kind of charring it. You notice there's no flames even with the charcoal, and with this much fat Usually you're gonna have flames, but it shows that your charcoal is pretty much burned out and you're in the full smoke now. All right, you see we're on the corner over here. You see we flipped it once more, and it's making a great bark. You're starting to see it open up, which is a good thing. We're gonna go for another 2.5 hours or so. The bigger the Boston butt, the more time you want to go. But that smoke is what you really want. You're not trying to cook it on the grill. When we're talking about smoking on a grill, you want to get the flavor from the smoke on the grill. But ultimately, you char it, you cook it, you give it a great flavor through and through, but finish it out in the crock pot or the oven. So we get to about 2 hours, 3 hours, we also start hitting it with some barbecue sauce. You use whatever barbecue sauce you want, but we use we try to eat as healthy and organic and non-GMO as possible. And we like the Stubbs non-GMO. I like the sticky sweet. Misty and Aiden kind of like the mesquite smoke. We'll put just a little on top. That again just helps work its way into the meat. Not a lot, it's not overpowering. You're gonna get more flavor from the smoke and meat more than you are this. This is just a basting, just to go in the crock pot or stove, and it allows it to kind of have a little char to it, but almost caramelize. I guess that's the word I'm looking for. We're not trying to cook it all the way out. This looks phenomenal. Look at how it barks up. You see all that crispiness right there? That's kind of what the barbecue does, and that helps it kind of give that just a deeper flavor, more richness. Sides fully smoked out. It's been on for about right at 4 hours, so we're just about to take it up. See how the meat is separating from the bone? That shows it's cooking, and being that we're cooking on the grill, we don't want to cook it too fast. We'd rather slow it down and put it low and slow. And this is different than most. Some people go straight to the crock pot or straight to the oven. I personally like to rest it through the night. It builds up better flavor. All that meat has time just to kind of congeal, and it does not hurt. It does not make it tough, does not make it rubbery. We just like it like that. So we'll leave it whole, let it naturally cool on its own in a pan right by the sink. Once it gets cool enough for room temperature, then we put it straight into the fridge, and we'll let it stay in the fridge through the night. In the morning, what we'll do is put it on in the crock pot, let it cook for about 6 hours in the crock pot. Not that you have to, but I want it to be where I can take this bone with my fingers and just literally pull it out. Makes it so much better, makes it so much tenderer. That fat has time to render down, and you don't really have, you know how if you eat some pulled pork that's kind of fatty and gelatinous. For one thing, I'm eating a forest raised pork butt, so the quality of the fat is wonderful. But even when we bought a lot of our pork butts, they'd always have this, you know, that the sinew or some of the fat that just wasn't really tasty. Well, when you cook it like this, let it sit in the fridge and then cook it for even longer in the oven, it renders down that fat better, and you can pour that fat off is what I do. I render it off and then let this cool, and it'll be ready to eat. So we're gonna kind of go with those steps. It's the next morning. We've got the pork basically in a crock pot. You can do it in the oven. The only reason we like this is because it's building up that juice. That glass helps hold that juice and also the pressure in it to where it kind of makes the meat more succulent and tender. Now, we don't want it sitting in its own fat. So in about 3 or 4 hours after we cook this and get it really done, we'll go and pour off all that juice. That juice is phenomenal if you're making stewed pork, but we're wanting a more dry, tender pulled pork, not like a stewed pork. Pour that off, and it'll be ready to pretty much break down. We'll let it cook for a little bit longer after that. So again, we've smoked it for 4 hours. We let it sit in the refrigerator, then we put it in the crock pot or stove. We'll do that for around 4 to 5 to 6 hours. The more you leave it, the more tender it gets. Just don't let it scald or burn, because then it's going to give you like a charred taste. So it is so tender, and this is what you want, to literally just pull it off the bone. I mean, it literally, where the bone just comes out. Look at that. That shows your pulled pork is ready to go. We're going to break it down, get it ready to put on a bun with some yummy coleslaw, and eat it.